Exodus chapter 20, verse 3. This is the law. There are three types of law. The first is the Ten Commandments. Within the Ten Commandments, some tell us what we must do, and others tell us what we are not to do. So there are the Ten Commandments. And then there are the sacrificial laws. And then there are the civil laws of the Israelites. The laws by which they were judged, and which they were to follow in their daily lives. All three of these together make up the law. The Ten Commandments are representative of these three kinds of law. Verse 3. You shall have no other gods before me. Look at what it says in this verse. You need to be honest with yourself now. If you have ever worshipped any other gods besides the one and only God, you have committed a great sin. You need to repent that sin with all your heart before God and ask Him to forgive you. That is, if you have worshipped other gods apart from God, God is the one who created this world. Any other gods stem from the devil. Think about this carefully. Have you ever worshipped other gods? Maybe a legendary god from old folk tales. Now look at verse 4. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. Here it says, you shall not make for yourself a carved image, and you shall not serve them. Even if you make something to represent God and claim to be worshiping God, the object is still an idol. Since God is spirit, and not some material object, if you make some material object to represent God, that object is an idol. When it comes to someone who is alive moving around and speaking, bowing down to someone who is alive is not a sin. This is a typical practice. But have you ever bowed down to some object? Not a living person? Think back over your life. Have you ever bowed down in front of a tomb? Or at an ancestral rite? Or a statue of the Virgin Mary? Or a pig's head that has been set out for good luck? Or perhaps a statue of Buddha? If you have, that is idolatry. Idolatry is a very grave sin. It is the sin of disregarding God. Perhaps in your heart, you are having an adverse reaction to all this right now. Perhaps you are asking why it is a sin to show respect to your parents who have passed away by preparing food in accordance with ancestral rites and bowing down before their graves. People do this because they are not aware that it is a sin. What happens when a person dies? In Ecclesiastes chapter 12 it says, then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. When a person dies, since his flesh is made from the dust of the ground, his physical body returns to the dust. When you die, you return to the dust. He returns to the dust of the ground. His spirit, on the other hand, the spirit that God has created in His own image, returns to God. There is no such thing as the spirit wandering around in the world and responding when those who are alive perform the ancestral rites. The spirit returns to God. The spirits of those who are saved go to paradise, and the spirits of those who are not saved go to Hades, which is quasi-hell. You can find this in the latter part of Luke chapter 16. A person goes to Hades, and later he will be resurrected. Even those who are not saved will all be resurrected. They won't be resurrected at the same time as those who are saved. So the spirits of your parents who have passed away do not respond to you or anything like that. When a person dies, his body returns to the dust of the ground. So when you bow down and worship some object, who are you worshiping? You are worshiping the devil. The devil is deceiving people in this way. It is the devil that came up with the idea of such worshiping idols. But there's something you need to understand here. Do you know what it means to be alive? Being alive means that your spirit is still attached and has not yet left your body. Even when a person becomes physically ill and is on the verge of death, he is still alive until his spirit leaves his body. It is when a person's spirit leaves his body that he dies. So being alive means having the spirit inside you that was created in the image of God. Even though you remain in the midst of sin, the Spirit created in the image of God dwells within you. That is referred to as your character and the activity of the conscience. When, in your body that houses the Spirit that was created in the image of God, you go and bow down to an empty object, you are blaspheming against God. The life within you is the Spirit that was made in the image of God. So how can you just bow down to anything? How can you bow down to something that is completely empty? You bow down before someone's grave, or you bow down to some image that can't even speak. That is blasphemy against God. Even though there is sin within you right now, there is also a spirit within you that was made in the image of God. It's because you do not know this that you have no problem bowing down and worshipping objects. This is a terrible sin. If you are going to honor your parents, you need to do it while they are still alive. If you act in such a way as to prevent your parents from being worried or anxious about you, that is honoring your parents. In other words, you need to put your parents' heart at ease. That is filial piety. Some people give their parents all kinds of worries, and they do this intentionally, not giving a thought to their parents. But then when their parents die, they come running back. They pay a lot of money to fly home, and there they bow down before their parents' coffins. But what use is that? The sin of worshipping idols is a very serious one. Now let's read verse 7. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. It says here, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Some people say, are you telling me to believe in God? I'd rather believe in my fist. Isn't that taking the name of God in vain? They are saying that their fist is greater than God. God is the one who created everything in the heavens and on earth. And yet some people use the name of God when they curse and swear. And they make jokes using the name of God. They just use the name of God as they please. There is only one God. The one and only God. He is holy, omnipotent, without sin. He is the one and only God who created everything in the heavens and on earth. And yet people don't bow down before this God, but to inanimate objects that they have made. They turn their backs on God and go somewhere else to pray to idols in search of blessings. They are completely ignoring God and insulting Him. Can you say that isn't a sin? We need to know what sins we have committed against God. We really need to know what sin is in order to be saved.